Alright, in this video I'm going to be going through how to replace the carburetor on this trimmer here. It's a Husqvarna or a Husqvarna, whatever you want to call it. 128 LED trimmer. Now I've made a video about this trimmer several years ago about having running issues, and the problem was simply replace the carburetor. It's about maybe 5 minutes long, covering a running issue I was having. Replace the carburetor. It'll probably solve your problems, which it did. But I didn't cover how to replace the carburetor in it because I thought, it's a very easy carburetor to replace. And there was enough videos out there, but I've gotten enough people asking Tay to make a video on it, so that's what I'm gonna do. Because several years later, this thing is now having some running issues. I was able to adjust the carburetor and get it running okay for a while, but it's starting to run bad. So I do have a new OEM carburetor and gasket, so let's get to it. So I got an 8mm socket, deep socket. Don't necessarily probably need a deep socket, it helps. And you just got these two in here. We've taken our air cleaner off. Just I'm sure you know how to do that. Just took the air cleaner housing off, and you just got these two bolts behind it, and we're just going to loosen those and then remove them. So we've taken our two little nuts out, just like that. Now all we need to do is slide this plastic cover off. This is your choke lever. So this cover should come right off. There's your carburetor. Now it's not held on by anything. It's literally just sitting on the studs. So basically this will just pull right on off. Of course, it's kind of stuck to the gasket. All right, so just put a little pressure behind it with a little screwdriver. If it's stuck to the gasket, which it was, and now it just slides on and off. So we're going to gently slide this off because we're not trying to damage our fuel lines, because I'm not trying to replace the fuel lines. Now we notice you have your little throttle cable right there. You just unhook, pull that out from the little thing on your carburetor. Just pull it out of that hole. Really easy to do. Just lifts right out just like that. There she is. And we'll slide that carburetor on off. Now she's off. So we got our two fuel lines right there. I'm going to use a little screwdriver on the ends to help wiggle them off. If I use pliers or try to pull on them, it's going to tear the fuel lines. You have to replace your fuel lines. I will try to replace the fuel line replacement kit in the description of the video. If you want to click on that, just like the carburetor will be there. If you do want to replace your fuel lines, there'll be OEM fuel lines as well. So let's go ahead and just work on getting the fuel lines off using a little screwdriver, a little bit of pressure, and they're pretty gunky. I'm going to get some carburetor cleaner and clean those off. Alright, so I just sprayed some aerosol carburetor cleaner on there to get some of that gunk off. And what do you know, we had a fuel line snap, so we are going to have to replace the fuel lines on this. So the fuel line that snapped was actually our return fuel line, not the fuel line connected to the filter. That one I know I replaced before and it seems okay, so I'm not going to change that one. I'm just going to basically take some of this fuel line and see if any of this fuel line I currently have will fit. Alright, so we got the old carburetor off. Like I said, I had some fuel line, which we'll cut. Like I said, I will put a description in the video about having to replace the fuel line. Hopefully you won't have to do that. Like I said, the only fuel line that broke was the return one, not the one where it's connected to the fuel filter. So I just pushed it through for now. As you can see, this is the old carburetor. When your carburetor is on, your one that's on the bottom, that is going to be your inlet fuel line. So that's when your fuel filter is connected, when it's down in the tank. The one that pumps fuel out, see that? That's pumping out the purge valve back into the tank. is the one that's on the top. So bottom is intake fuel, top one is return, the outward for the plunger. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take our old gasket off. Like so. Make sure our new one, matches, which of course it does, because it's OEM part. So we'll just put that back on the threads. Gonna put our gasket on first. Lines up, beautifully on there. Then we're going to take our new carburetor. Obviously, it's pretty simple to understand what direction it goes on because of our choke. Or obviously, our choke has to be out. And actually, just to clarify a little bit more with the refuel line, I said the bottom because I had them up. You're basically your one to your right. So if it's sitting on your engine, your one that's to the right or to the back of the trimmer, that's your return fuel line. Your one to the left, or the one more towards the front of your trimmer, is your intake fuel line. It's also a little bit longer. So your longer one coming off the carb is where your inlet of fuel is coming out, and your shorter one is your exhale. So our one closest to the plunger bolt directly below it. However, let you know, just try to keep track of this fuel lines. If you're wondering why it's not running correctly, it's because you have your fuel lines on wrong. I recommend putting your fuel lines on first before you put your carburetor on. So we'll just push it on all the way as far as you can go. There's no clamps on these type of fuel lines. So as far as you can go, push that on there all the way. Make sure everything is still connected. Then we're going to take this other one. I want a little extra material. So I'm going to cut some off. Not too much off. Maybe a little more. And this one's going to be a little tighter because it's new. And you're just going to work that just like that. And then slide this onto our studs. Of course, your fuel lines may get in the way underneath of it, so you may have to move them out of the way. I'm trying to show you all here. Basically, your fuel lines can get up underneath of it and bunch up underneath. So you just want to make sure you pull your fuel lines to the side so you can push your carburetor all the way flush. You don't want your carburetor sitting on top of your fuel lines. All right, so as you said, your carburetor is all the way back. Your fuel lines are not underneath of it. They're pushed to the side. All right. Now, all you got to do is make sure we hook this back up. You got this little black guy that sits right there. He has this little hump that he goes on right there. So he kind of sits there like that. that little indentation. And your little throttle guy, you can just bring your throttle back. This thing goes over it. It's going to be a little tight, but I mean, that's how your throttle is supposed to be. So just like that. So this is up on the hump. Your cable is going over top and it's down in the hole. Let's squeeze our throttle. See, that's why you want to test stuff, because it's too tight. All right, so we have it figured out now. So this little black guy here, this little plastic piece that part of your thing is sitting on, it has an indentation that it sits into right there. That's your gasket sliding on, this little plastic nub. I don't know if you can see it, a little plastic nub right there. If you look on the back of this, this doesn't, it just pushes right into it just like that. There's a little kind of cut mark back in here, and as long as there's no tension on her, she pushes right on in just like that. Your carburetor string goes right on top, and you can just push your carburetor right on back on the studs, just like so. Our throttle now works perfectly. No binding, nice and smooth. So now, the only thing we have left is to put our carburetor cover back on. I'm going to take some carburetor cleaner and just kind of clean that off a little bit. It's very oily. And we're just going to slide that back on. Have your choke lever in the center like this so it can slide on through. Because if not, you can have a hard time. There we go. So our choke lever's through. Now we're just going to slide it onto the studs. Now what we're going to want to make sure, come back around here, make sure this cover's not pinching your fuel line, because if it is, you're just going to have to push your fuel line out of the way. We want this cover to sit all the way back, because this is actually what's bolting down and holding all this stuff together. So push your fuel line out of the way if you need to. It should be encapsulated within this thing, basically, not sticking out. So she's in there now. And then all we're going to do is take those little 7mm guys, and this is the trick. I said this helps having a deep socket, is drop your nut in that 8mm socket like so, and that way you don't have to try to fit your fingers in that little area, and you can just snug it down with your hands at first like so, and then we'll take a little ratchet and just snug it up. It doesn't have to be crazy tight. You could just use a nut driver if you have one of those. If you know what that is, probably get enough torque just from that. So I'm going to take this little ratchet, and I'm going to have my hand all the way up on it because I don't want to put too much torque on it. Then we'll do the bottom one, snug it down, go back to the top. So that's nice and snug. Take your air filter, place it all the way back. Your choke lever works. Take your cover, put your cover on like so. Now your little plunger guy, your little choke plunger on the back. I need to put my fuel cap back because I need to make sure I had pressed that return fuel line in. Which I did. Now your little plunger on the back that you used to start her up, there's air inside. Now I've already done it, but you may have to hit that plunger 20 times before she even gets air in her. I mean, gets all the air out of it, so you can actually start sucking in that fuel and then discharging it back into the tank. All right, now this is the final. She starts. We have it on choke. First pull, of course, I did plunge the plunger. So let's go to half choke. All right, so she works. That's all there is to it. And as you saw, there was some trial and error and some things that had happened, but you saw the mistakes, kind of how to solve them / prevent them from happening in the first place. Now, I'll have the links in the description of the part and the fuel lines, because in case you did it does come with these instructions. But by the way, all of this instructions only has to do with how to adjust the idle. If the idle's too low or the idle's too high, not actually how to install the carburetor or any other type of adjustment, just the idle screw. But anyway, that's all there is to it. Hope this helps somebody. Until next time, I hope you'll have a good day.